Luke, the Passion Translation, Chapter 6. One Sabbath day, Jesus and his disciples were walking through the field of ripe wheat. His disciples plucked some heads of grain, rubbed the husks off with their hands, and ate them. This infuriated some of the Jewish religious leaders. They said to Jesus, "Why are you allowing your disciples to harvest grain on the Sabbath? Don't you know it's not permissible according to the law?" Jesus replied, "Haven't you read the scriptures? Haven't you read what King David did when he was hungry? He entered the sanctuary of God, took the bread of God's presence right off the sacred table, and shared it with his men. It was only lawful for the priests to eat the bread of God's presence. You need to know that the Son of Man is no slave to the Sabbath, for I am the master over the Sabbath." On another Sabbath, Jesus was teaching in a synagogue. In the room with him was a man with a deformed right hand. Everyone watched Jesus closely, especially the Jewish religious leaders and religious scholars, to see if Jesus would heal on a Sabbath, for they were eager to find a reason to accuse him of breaking the Jewish law. Jesus, knowing their every thought, said to the man with the deformed hand, "Come and stand here in the middle of the room." So he got up and came forward. Jesus said to all who were there, "Let me ask you a question. Which is better, to heal or to harm on a Sabbath? I have come to save a life, but you've come to find a life to destroy." One by one, Jesus looked at the eyes of each person in the room. Then he said to the man, "Stretch out your arm and open your hand." With everyone watching intently, he stretched out his arm, and his hand was completely healed. The room erupted with bitter rage, and from that moment on, the religious leaders plotted amongst themselves about how they might harm Jesus. After leaving the synagogue, Jesus went into the high hills to spend the whole night in prayer to God. At daybreak, he called together all of his followers and selected 12 from amongst them, and he appointed them to be his apostles. Here are their names: Simon, who he named Peter; Andrew, Peter's brother; Jacob; John; Philip; Bartholomew; Matthew; Thomas; Jacob the son of Alphaeus; Simon, known as the fiery political zealot; Judah the son of Jacob; and Judas the locksmith, who later betrayed Jesus. Jesus and his apostles came down from the hillside to a level field where a large number of his disciples waited, along with a massive crowd, people from all over Judea, Jerusalem, and the coastal district of Tyre and Sidon. They all had come to listen to the word so that they could be healed of their diseases and be set free from the tormenting demonic powers. The entire crowd eagerly tried to come near Jesus to touch him to receive the healing, because a tangible, supernatural power emanated from him and healed all who came close to him. Looking intently at his followers, Jesus began his sermon. "How enriched you become when you're a beggar, for you will experience the reality of God's kingdom. How filled you become when you are consumed with hunger and desire, for you will be completely satisfied. How content you become when you weep with complete brokenness, for you will laugh with unrestrained joy. How favored you become when you are hated, excommunicated, or slandered, or when your name is spoken of as evil because of your love for me, the Son of Man. I promise you that as you experience these things, you will celebrate and dance with overflowing joy, and the heavenly reward of your faith will be abundant, because you're being treated the same way as your forefathers, the prophets. But what sorrows await those of you who are rich in this life only, for you've already received all the comfort you'll ever get. What sorrows await those who are content with yourself, for hunger and emptiness will come to you. What sorrows await those of you who laugh now, having received your joy in this life only, for grief and wailing will come to you. What sorrows await those of you who are always honored and lauded by others, for that's how your forefathers treated every false prophet. But I say to you who hear, love your enemies and do something wonderful for those in return for their hatred. When someone curses you, bless that person in return. When others mistreat and harass you, accept it as your mission to pray for them. To those who despise you, continue to serve them and minister to them. If someone takes away your coat, give him as a gift your shirt as well. When someone comes to beg from you, give to that person what you have. When things are wrongfully taken from you, do not demand that it be given back. The way you want others to treat you is how you should treat everyone else. Are you really showing true love by loving only those who love you? Even those who don't know God will do that. Are you really showing compassion when you do good deeds only to those who do good deeds to you? Even those who don't know God will do that. If you lend money only to those who will repay you, what credit is that to your character? Even those who don't know God do that. Rather, love your enemies and continue to treat them well. When you lend money, don't despair if you never get paid back, for it is not lost. You will receive a rich reward when you will be known as true children of the Most High God, having His same nature. Be like your Father, who is famous for His kindness to heal even the thankless and cruel. Overflow with mercy and compassion for others, just as your Heavenly Father overflows with mercy and compassion for all. Jesus said, forsake the habit of criticizing and judging others, and you will not be criticized and judged in return. Don't condemn others, and you will not be condemned. Forgive over and over, and you will be forgiven over and over. Give generously, and generous gifts will be given back to you, shaken down to make room for more. Abundant gifts will pour out upon you with such an overflowing measure that it will run over the top. The measurement of your generosity becomes the measurement of your return. Jesus also quoted these proverbs. What happens when a blind man pretends to guide another blind man? They both stumble into a ditch. And how could an apprentice know more than his master? For only after he is fully qualified, he will be at that level. Why do you focus on a flaw in someone else's life and fail to notice the glaring flaws in your own life? How could you say to your friend, here, let me show you where you are wrong, when you are guilty of even more than he? You are overcritical, splitting hairs, and being a hypocrite. You must acknowledge your own blind spots and deal with them before you will be able to deal with the blind spots of your friend. You will never find a choice fruit hanging on a bad, unhealthy tree, and a rotten fruit doesn't hang on a good, healthy tree. Every tree will be revealed by the quality of the fruit that it produces. You will never pick figs or grapes from a thorn tree. People are known in the same way. Out of a virtue stored in their hearts, good and upright people will produce good fruit. Likewise, of the evil hidden in their hearts, evil ones will produce what is evil. For the overflow of what has been stored in your hearts will be seen by the fruit and will be heard by your words. What good does it do for you to say that I am your Lord and Master if you don't put into practice what I teach you? Let me describe the one who truly follows me and does what I say. He is like a man who chooses the right place to build a house and then lays a deep and secure foundation. When the storms and floods rage against that house, it continues to stand strong and unshaken through the tempest, for he built it wisely on the right foundation. But the one who heard my teaching and does not obey it is like a man who built a house without laying a foundation. When the storms and floods rage against that house, it will immediately collapse and become a total loss. Which of these two builders will you be?